Hollywood loves a comeback story. But what about the scandals it hoped would never see the light of day? Underneath the glamour and golden spotlights, Tinseltown has spent decades sweeping its messiest secrets under the rug. From mysterious deaths to cover-ups so wild you'd think they were movie scripts, these stories were locked away for years. Are you ready to peek behind the curtain and find out what the studios never wanted you to know? You might want to buckle up for this ride. Thelmas Death. You think Hollywood mysteries start with film noir? The real thing began one icy morning in December 1935, when actress Thelma Todd was found lifeless in her car, slumped over the wheel inside her own garage. To the press, it was just another tragic accident, carbon monoxide, the coroner said. But anyone paying attention could smell a cover-up a mile away. Todd was young, beautiful, and a rising comedy star, but she was also tangled with powerful men, including mobsters and movie moguls who never liked her independence. Rumors erupted overnight. Some claimed she was targeted by the mob after refusing to let her successful cafe become a front for their business. Others said she was simply in the wrong place at the wrong time, or maybe someone close to her wanted her silenced. The investigation was almost laughably sloppy. Evidence vanished, stories kept changing, and the final verdict, a simple accident, felt like Hollywood magic of the worst kind. Decades later, people are still debating what really happened that night. Did Thelma Todd accidentally lock herself in with a running car, or was she put there as a warning? The fact that the truth remains as foggy as a 1930s Los Angeles morning is no accident. In the city of dreams, sometimes the nightmares are the ones nobody talks about. Clark Gable and Loretta Young's hidden child. Imagine being so famous that even your secrets need studio-sized solutions. In 1935, Clark Gable, Hollywood's king, and Loretta Young, the wholesome sweetheart, shared a set, a romance, and, thanks to a blizzard during the filming of Call of the Wild, an impossible secret. Young became pregnant, but with Gable married and both their careers on the line, a regular scandal just wouldn't do. Instead, the studio masterminds devised a plan worthy of a heist movie. Loretta disappeared from Hollywood for months, supposedly for a long European vacation. When she returned, the baby was quietly placed in an orphanage. A year and a half later, Young adopted her own daughter and spun the story that she had rescued an abandoned child. The ruse worked for decades. Hollywood insiders whispered, but the press and the public bought the story hook, line, and sinker. It wasn't until the 1990s that Loretta Young's daughter learned the truth, finally confirming the long-rumored connection. The lengths these two stars and their handlers went to in order to avoid scandal still boggle the mind. In the land of make-believe, even family trees can be rewritten if the script calls for it. The William Desmond Taylor murder cover-up. The plot: a famous director, a mysterious death, a cast of suspects that reads like a who's who of Hollywood's golden age, and a studio desperate to keep everything quiet. In 1922, William Desmond Taylor was found shot in his home. Hollywood scrambled into damage control mode faster than you can say studio interference. Before police even arrived, Paramount's manager was allegedly inside Taylor's bungalow, removing evidence and cleaning up anything that might link a star or the studio itself to the crime. The suspect list was a tabloid dream. Jealous lovers, ambitious rivals, secret lives, even shadowy figures from Taylor's own past. But after the studio's cleanup crew finished their work, police were left with a riddle and a lot of missing pieces. The press spun wild theories, but the real story disappeared in a fog of studio spin and silence. Decades of rumors followed. Was it a love triangle gone wrong? A revenge plot? Blackmail? The only thing everyone agreed on was that powerful people wanted the story buried. Today, the case is still unsolved, and it stands as Hollywood's original unsolved mystery, one where the biggest twist might be how fast the truth vanished once the cameras stopped rolling. Judy Garland. You've heard of child stars pushed too hard, but Judy Garland's story is Hollywood's original cautionary tale. From the moment she landed the role of Dorothy, Garland became both the industry's brightest star and its best-kept secret. Behind the Technicolor magic, MGM was running a nightmare operation. Executives gave Garland pep pills to keep her working, downers to help her sleep, and harsh diets to make sure she never gained a pound. Garland was a teenager, living under a microscope, and every minute of her life was controlled by someone else. If she ever slowed down or spoke out, she risked losing everything. Studio PR teams spun stories about her health issues and nervous exhaustion to explain away the very real toll their treatment was taking on her. For decades, the true scope of the studio's abuse stayed hidden, with only hints leaking out in carefully managed interviews. It wasn't until years after her death that the extent of the damage became clear. Biographies and family members peeled back the curtain to show the world how MGM had created a legend and destroyed a young woman in the process. The scandal? The studio knew exactly what it was doing and covered up every bruise, every breakdown, every tear. It's a Hollywood horror story that should never have stayed in the dark. Fatty Arbuckles' hotel party. Before there was TMZ, there was Fatty Arbuckle, a comedy giant whose fall from grace became Hollywood's first mega scandal. In 1921, Arbuckle threw a wild party at the St. Francis Hotel in San Francisco, and by the next morning, silent film actress Virginia Rappe was dead. The press went wild, claiming Arbuckle had committed unspeakable acts at the party. Studios panicked, lawyers circled, and a media circus erupted that was bigger than anything Hollywood had ever seen. But here's the part they don't teach in film school. The studios pulled every string to protect their golden boy and themselves. Evidence vanished. Witnesses suddenly forgot their stories. Prosecutors and defense teams twisted facts to fit whatever narrative would save the most reputations. Arbuckle went on trial, not once, but 3 times, and was eventually acquitted. But the damage was done. His career was ruined. His films were pulled from theaters, and his name became synonymous with scandal. For years, the full story was hidden behind studio spin and legal maneuvering. Was Arbuckle a villain, a victim, or just unlucky enough to be caught in Hollywood's first tabloid feeding frenzy? Even now, the truth feels slippery. One thing's for sure. Hollywood learned fast that with enough money and power, even the wildest stories can be buried deep, at least until someone decides to dig them up. Jean Harlo and the Paul Bern mystery. Every Hollywood star has a backstory, but Jean Harlo's life came with a full-blown murder mystery. Just 2 months after marrying MGM executive Paul Bern, Harlo found him dead in their mansion. The studio's response was straight out of a noir thriller. MGM execs rushed to the scene before the police arrived, rearranged evidence, and staged the room to fit their version of events. The official story? Bern took his own life over impotence, a narrative that conveniently protected Harlo and the studio from scandal. But not everyone bought it. Whispers about mob connections, jealous exes, and a mysterious note left behind swirled through Hollywood for years. Bern's former lover even turned up dead soon after, only deepening suspicions that this was a cover-up of epic proportions. The studios controlled the press, managed public statements, and paid off anyone who threatened to blow the story wide open. For decades, Harlo's fans and true crime buffs alike pored over the evidence, searching for clues that might finally reveal what happened. The only thing everyone agrees on is this: the official version was pure Hollywood spin. In Tinseltown, the truth often takes a back seat to box office, and the Paul Bern case remains one of the industry's most stubborn secrets. J. Edgar Hoover's Secret Files on Hollywood. For decades, one of the most powerful men in America wasn't an actor, director, or studio boss. It was FBI Director J. Edgar Hoover. With a mix of paranoia and cold calculation, Hoover built secret files on some of Hollywood's brightest stars, collecting dirt, rumors, and confidential reports that could ruin anyone's career with a single leak. Why? Control. Hoover wanted to keep Tinseltown in check, ensuring no celebrity became too influential or outspoken for his liking. No one was safe. Charlie Chaplin, Marilyn Monroe, Walt Disney, and dozens more found themselves under the microscope, with Hoover's agents tracking their political opinions, social circles, and personal lives. If a star supported controversial causes, the file got thicker. If they crossed Hoover or spoke out against government policy, leaks could accidentally find their way to the press, leading to sudden investigations, lost contracts, or blacklisting. The real bombshell? When Hoover died in 1972, his legendary files were quickly removed from FBI headquarters, with rumors swirling that evidence of blackmail and covert manipulation disappeared forever. Even today, no one knows the full extent of Hoover's Hollywood web. One thing's certain, in a city built on secrets, J. Edgar Hoover may have been the most powerful secret keeper of them all. Hollywood's biggest stars might have shined bright, but everyone knew if Hoover had a file on you, your entire career could be over with one phone call. Joan Crawford. Hollywood royalty doesn't always mean happily ever after. For years, Joan Crawford ruled the screen with her icy stare and unbreakable poise. But behind the perfectly polished persona, another story was quietly kept under wraps. Crawford's daughter, Christina, would later blow the lid off with her explosive memoir, Mommy Dearest, revealing years of strict discipline, manipulation, and emotional turmoil at home. The studios wasted no time spinning the narrative. Crawford was a doting mother, misunderstood by a bitter child. MGM's PR team painted the actress as a symbol of strength and grace, paying off reporters and burying any negative stories that surfaced. The press, ever hungry for studio access, fell in line. For decades, the reality of Crawford's household was a closely guarded secret, whispered about at dinner parties, but never splashed across headlines. When the truth finally hit the public, it was seismic. Crawford's reputation took a hit, but the bigger story was how far Hollywood would go to protect its own. In the end, Mommy Dearest didn't just expose Crawford, it showed the world how powerful the industry could be at rewriting reality, one headline at a time. The mysterious death of George Reeves. If Hollywood has a handbook on how to handle a suspicious death, the George Reeves case is on the cover. Best known as Superman on TV, Reeves was found dead from a gunshot wound in 1959. The official line? Self-inflicted. But the story behind the scenes was messier than a comic book plot. Reeves's fiancée, Lenore Lemon, and several guests were in the house, yet no one could agree on what happened that night. To make things even weirder, powerful MGM fixer Eddie Manx had a long history with Reeves, and some say a motive for wanting him gone. Investigators found no fingerprints on the weapon, and key evidence vanished into thin air. Studio PR teams swooped in, keeping reporters focused on Reeves's supposed personal troubles and steering them away from any theory involving foul play. For years, the questions piled up. Was Reeves targeted by someone close to him? Did Hollywood's fixers clean up yet another mess before the press could find out? The case remains unsolved, a testament to how quickly the truth can disappear when enough money and influence are in play. In Hollywood, even Superman couldn't save himself from a story the studios wanted to bury. The Eddie Manx fixer files. If Hollywood had a cleaner, it was Eddie Manx, the MGM executive whose real job was making problems disappear. Manx wasn't just a studio boss. He was the guy you called when an A-list star crashed a car, got in a late-night fight, or found themselves at the center of a headline-grabbing disaster. His method? Bribes, threats, hush money, and a black book of city officials and underworld contacts. For years, his cover-ups kept the MGM Dream Factory running at full speed, while scandals evaporated before they reached the morning papers. The juiciest secret: Manx's involvement in the mysterious death of George Reeves, TV's original Superman. Reeves was found dead in his home, with an official report calling it self-inflicted. But Manx's wife had a rumored affair with Reeves, and whispers flew that Manx orchestrated the cleanup, or worse, the crime itself. Police investigations quickly stalled, witnesses changed their stories, and evidence conveniently vanished. But that was only one example. Manx paid off police after Clark Gable's reckless driving killed a pedestrian, silenced gossip columnists with expensive gifts, and even got stars quietly out of jail. It was all in a day's work. The files Manx kept have never been made public, and most of his secrets went to the grave with him. If you think the studios were always squeaky clean, think again. With Eddie Manx on the payroll, MGM never had to worry about bad press, because he made sure the world never heard the real story. The death of Thelmas Death. If you've ever heard the phrase, "What happens on the yacht stays on the yacht," thank William Randolph Hearst. In 1924, Hollywood producer Thelmas Death died after a wild weekend aboard Hearst's legendary yacht, the Oneida. The official story was simple. Death died of indigestion. But Hollywood insiders weren't buying it, and for good reason. Hearst, the most powerful media mogul of his time, was determined to keep what really happened a secret. Here's what the gossip mill churned out. Rumor had it Hearst discovered his mistress, Marion Davies, getting too cozy with Charlie Chaplin and, in a jealous rage, fired a shot that accidentally hit Death. Within hours, Hearst's personal doctors took over the investigation. The body was quickly cremated, and all the high-profile guests were given a crash course in silence. Newspapers owned by Hearst himself printed the tidy version, and the rest of the press fell into line or risked being blacklisted. For years, anyone who dared question the story faced legal threats, lost jobs, or worse. The mystery became a Hollywood legend, a perfect example of how money, power, and fear could reshape reality with a snap of the fingers. To this day, no one really knows what happened on that yacht, but everyone knows you don't cross a media king, especially when the truth could sink more than just a career. The Lana Turner and Johnny Stompado case. In 1958, Hollywood's glitziest headlines collided with real-life crime in a way that had the entire country glued to their radios. Lana Turner, the ultimate silver screen siren, had a knack for finding trouble, and none was bigger than her toxic relationship with Johnny Stompado, a mob enforcer with a mean streak and powerful friends. Their love affair was the stuff of pulp fiction, jealousy, threats, shouting matches, and late-night phone calls that ended in tears. But it all exploded one April night when Stompado ended up stabbed to death in Turner's Beverly Hills home. The story the public got? Turner's teenage daughter, Cheryl Crane, acted in defense of her mother, plunging a knife into Stompado during a violent argument. But the truth, as always, was far murkier. Studio executives raced to the scene, PR teams swarmed the police station, and every effort was made to keep Lana's image squeaky clean. Witnesses were carefully managed, evidence was quietly lost, and Turner's testimony was so well rehearsed it could have won an Oscar. Despite the coroner's inquest ruling the act was justifiable, rumors never died. Some whispered Turner herself wielded the knife, others said the mob demanded silence, and a few insisted the whole thing was staged to save her career. The official story has held for decades, but the cover-up was as thorough as any Hollywood production. In a town where fame forgives almost everything, Lana Turner's greatest performance may have been off-screen, outsmarting a scandal that could have ended her for good. And there you have it. Hollywood's darkest secrets, swept under the red carpet for decades and only now coming to light. These scandals prove that in the land of stars, the shadows can stretch for miles. So, which story shocked you the most, or did you already know the truth behind one of these legendary cover-ups? Drop your thoughts in the comments, hit that subscribe button for more untold Hollywood tales, and remember, in this town, there's always another secret waiting to be discovered.